is Mark Gunn Media.
Hit it!
Welcome to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. I'm your host, Mark Gunn. The views expressed on this program are those of the host and guests and not necessarily reflective of anyone or any entity associated with this broadcast. This episode, the Colin Kaepernick Conundrum. As we get closer to the NFL preseason, the hot topic has been the fact that former San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick has yet to be signed. The controversy surrounding him because of his refusal to stand for the national anthem is even more controversial when you have NFL owners falling all over themselves to deny that Cap's protest has anything to do with him not being signed.
I don't think there's any question he's being blackballed. Do I think there's been an edict from the league office? No. Do I think the 32 owners got together and decided collectively that this would be their approach? No. The idea that Colin Kaepernick, while he's not Tom Brady, he's not Aaron Rodgers, he's not Russell Wilson or Cam Newton at this point in his career, but the idea that Colin Kaepernick can't play for some team and that he isn't among the 50 or 60 best quarterbacks who could play in the NFL is ridiculous. And when you consider the fact that domestic abusers, people guilty of various forms of misbehavior, find a place on NFL rosters, you got to believe that Colin Kaepernick, regardless of whether you agree or disagree with him politically, deserves a chance to ply his trade.
I'm not going to rehash his stats because even though they had a losing season as a team, individually, his numbers were not all that bad. Rehashing stats is exactly what the NFL wants because they want you to think that this is only about football, when even the majority of black players and even some white ones know that it's not.
To mute the slave has always been to the best interests of the slave owner. And I think that when a black voice is raised in protest to oppression, those who are comfortable with our oppression are the first to criticize us for daring to speak out against it. The fact that these people are having these, how dare you speak out against lynching and all of the things that that racism stands for, or the conclusions to racist acts permit, I think is a statement about America.
In my opinion, the NFL, and more specifically its ownership group, are but a symptom of America's chronic disease, racism. The whole disrespecting the flag / disrespecting the country thing is a load of crap.
The issue that I have here is that it's just so disrespectful to our American anthem. And it's somewhat contradictory because here he is playing an American sport, getting paid American money from American fans, and yet he can't stand for our American anthem.
So-called patriots in the NFL think nothing of throwing the military under the red, white, and blue bus, citing that Cap's protest was a slap in their collective faces.
I believe when I see the American flag, I live with great pride when I see that. You know, my father was a World War II veteran, so I grew up in a family that was very patriotic, that understood what that flag stood for. It may be different for other people. So when I see somebody like Colin Kaepernick in an NFL uniform on an NFL field not respect that flag. I'm not saying that he doesn't respect the military, but just not stand for that flag. That really bothers me. And I really feel like he's insulted the flag.
Several servicemen and women have pushed back, saying that Cap's protest was exactly why they served and that they didn't appreciate being made the scapegoat.
I saw a lot of folks claiming that Colin Kaepernick was disrespecting troops or somehow disrespecting veterans with the protests that he's making. A lot of those people not having served themselves. And I think me and my colleagues really wanted to make sure that there was a voice out there saying those people don't speak for us. There are many veterans that support both Colin Kaepernick's right to protest and also agree with him that Black Lives Matter and there's something that needs to be done in America about institutional racism.
U.S. veterans are coming to Colin Kaepernick's defense in droves. Don't use us. We veterans do not like that. There are veterans that I politically don't agree with. But when it comes down to us agreeing on how we're being treated and how people marginalize us and think they're better than us, we stick together.
It's also been revealed that the NFL's patriotism is completely bought and paid for to the tune of over $9 million for the past few years. Nothing really patriotic about it. Ironically, soldiers are saying that Colin Kaepernick is more of a patriot than the NFL and those that complain about his protest. Remember when all of this went down? So-called real Americans threaten to boycott the NFL.
We need to boycott the NFL. The NFL is an anti-American corporation. Roger Goodell already came out and said he supports the players that are sitting down for the national anthem. Support them, but I don't have to support you.
Now that lasted what? 2 weeks? The reason why the NFL caved and is effectively blackballing Colin Kaepernick? Cowardice. Plain and simple. The numbers break out like this. League players, 75% black. The fan base is 83% white. League executives and coaches, including Seattle Seahawks coach Pete Carroll, have said that Kaepernick is a, quote, starter in this league. But this indicates that the man's afro and his unapologetic blackness, not his abilities, are why no NFL team will sign him. And let's not forget the support of the racist in chief in the White House. League owners have ponied over $100 million to the Donald Trump campaign. Just so we're all on the same page here, ratings and revenue are the most important things to the NFL. It makes an estimated $7 billion, that's right, billion with a B, $7 billion a year in TV contracts. So what you may not know is that those ratings and revenue have been on the decline for the last few years, down some 20% over the last year. This was long before Cap's protest. Now, several reasons include last year's election had everybody's attention. I mean, with a clown show like that, how could it not? ESPN is suffering because people are choosing to cut the cord with decreasing cable and satellite subscriptions. The domestic violence backlash. Don't know why it took so long, but people are finally getting sick and tired of the league's double standard. Plain and simple, a player that beats his wife or girlfriend gets less of a suspension than someone taking drugs or taking a knee in peaceful protest. Now, there are a lot of other reasons, from the NFL's shadiness when it comes to concussions, terrible matchups, and frankly, players that just aren't that good, just to name a few. Now, how's this for irony? Remember those real Americans that wanted to boycott because they saw Colin Kaepernick's protest as anti-American?
They can do what they want. They can say whatever they think, and I respect their constitutional right to do it. I hope they respect my constitutional right never to watch the NFL again.
Well, as we close in on the new season, there's another group that's talking boycott. This time in support of Colin Kaepernick. The first boycott didn't work, and despite the momentum that this latest one is getting, I really don't think it'll work either. I'll tell you why after this. If you're an advertiser, one of the most important things about getting your message out is actually standing out from the rest of the crowd. If you're listening to this program right now, this is where you would hear your commercial. As an exclusive sponsor to Gunshots Straight from the Hip, your commercial is professionally produced and gets a longer shelf life based on your needs. Gunshots Straight from the Hip is a unique and compelling program, unlike anything else in the marketplace. Episodes are also available for download on iTunes, and depending on how you tailor your message, the potential for new and repeat customers is that much greater. Best of all, it's extremely cost-effective. If you'd like more information on how to sponsor this broadcast, call Mark Gun Media Inc. at 502-205-2085 or 502-407-0283. That's 502-205-2085 or 502-407-0283. Welcome back to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. We're talking about the proposed boycott of the NFL on behalf of former 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick and his protest of the national anthem.
I mean, ultimately, it's to bring awareness and make people realize what's really going on in this country. There are a lot of things that are going on that are unjust, people aren't being held accountable for, and that's something that needs to change.
One thing that needs to be abundantly clear, and I'm sure I'm going to hear from the "if America's so bad, why don't you leave" crowd after I say this. The underlying theme I keep hearing from those who have their panties in a bunch is that the protest goes against so-called American values.
This country stands for freedom, liberty, justice for all. And it's not happening for all right now.
Now, here are the values that they speak of. The American value of hypocrisy. Everyone says that they're for equal rights in the First Amendment, right? But their actions say that as long as they don't fly against my view of America. The American value of denial and cowardice. Everyone wants to complain about Kaepernick's protest, but scatter like roaches when the why of that protest is brought up.
The people who are criticizing Colin Kaepernick don't want to talk about why he is doing this. They want to only focus on the fact that he is doing this because it is nice and convenient to avoid the reality of what he's talking about, and it forces America to deal with police brutality, to deal with the accountability, to deal with income inequality, to deal with all of these matters, to deal with the education system, and nobody wants to deal with that because I'll use Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. We love to quote content of character. Can we just all get along? Can little white boys and little white girls hold hands? But that was Dr. King's dream. But they don't want to deal with the top 2/3 of the speech, which was the real hard stuff that we still, 53 years later, are still trying to confront.
They've been in this constant state of American brainwashing in thinking that this country is so star-spangled awesome that it couldn't possibly be racist.
And this is what I don't understand, is that people will take 1,000 athletes or entertainers and says, well, what are black people complaining about? Well, there's 34 million African Americans or the minorities. I've never heard anyone say, well, the LBG community is not being discriminated against because Ellen DeGeneres has her own show. She's making millions. No one ever says, well, women get 78 to 83 cents on the dollar compared to a man because Meg Whitman is a billionaire. But they only say that about African Americans because you see a Ray Lewis or a Shannon Sharp played in the National Football League on television or Magic Johnson or Michael Jordan. But the greatest one, you got President Obama in the White House, so America ain't racist. Stop it.
Now, if only they would do what the police tell them to do, they wouldn't get killed. Try telling that to Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland, and Philando Castile. Oh, wait, you can't. They were murdered by the police.
When you talk about disrespect and you talk about the iniquities that have been exacted against people of color in this nation, there is no question that it breeds hostility. It breeds contempt. The most annoying thing in the world to us is when those who have not been victimized or those who share a cultural identity to those who have victimized us, trying to tell us how we're supposed to react to it. It fuels us even more. The nerve of anybody white telling Colin Kaepernick and black folks how they're supposed to feel or what is disrespectful when you're the one that stirred that level of frustration.
Now, as to why I don't think a boycott of the NFL will work, several reasons. One, as of this broadcast, Change.org has some 100,000 signatures and counting. That's a good start. But unless you're planning massive protests outside of NFL stadiums all over the country, it won't have much of an impact. Two, if you can get everyone in lockstep when it comes to NFL merchandising, ticket sales, fantasy leagues, watching the games, etc., you might make a blip. However, I don't see that happening either because Americans have a short attention span. By the way, Colin Kaepernick's jersey is still outselling others. Number 3, the NFL is still going to make money. Remember that $7 billion a year in TV contracts? And part of any effective protest has to go beyond mere symbolism. It has to have some sort of punitive impact. If you want to send a message to the NFL, you have to hit them where it hurts.
The way that you actually hit the NFL in their pockets is to target their sponsors. That kind of pressure can be applied, but it will call for a type of collectiveness that we haven't shown in quite some time. Can we generate the collectiveness, the unity that will be necessary to actually throw a punch? Not talking about even winning a fight. We're talking about letting somebody know we're in the fight for a change.
Football is America's game. And the reason why so many people are misguided in their passion for it, because it's an escape. It's another way for Americans to hide their heads. Only this time, it's not up their backsides. Any diversion that keeps them from actually having to deal with an issue that makes them uncomfortable, right? Colin Kaepernick is a reminder that even football isn't safe from the reality that is America.
Giants owner John Mara recently eroded the myth that Colin Kaepernick's play is why he's yet to find a new team, when Mara cited fan backlash as a reason the erstwhile 49ers QB is still unemployed. All this did was remind me of how out of touch the NFL can be. Yeah, fan backlash is a concern for the NFL regarding Kaepernick, but the backlash they should really be worried about is now coming from those who are rightfully upset that Kaepernick has been unable to land a job.
Now, if you want to make an even bigger statement, stop standing for the national anthem altogether. And don't stand for it until this country finally admits that it does have a problem when it comes to race and police brutality. Until that happens, the American motto of freedom, justice, and equality will continue to be that great lie she tells you and herself. Muhammad Ali once asked why he should go fight in a war for a country that wouldn't fight for him.
You my opposer when I want freedom. You my opposer when I want justice. You my opposer when I want equality. You won't even stand up for me in America, and you want me to go somewhere and fight, but you won't even stand up for me here at home.
Colin Kaepernick is simply asking why he, or any other person of color for that matter, would stand for an anthem that clearly wasn't written for them. Wouldn't that be practicing the same type of hypocrisy America does herself? I'm just asking. You've been listening to Gunshots Straight from the Hip. The views expressed are those of the host and guests and not necessarily reflective of any entity or anyone associated with this broadcast. If you'd like to leave a comment or want more information about how you can advertise on this program, email us at gunshotsstraightfromthehip@gmail.com or call 502-205-2085 or 502-407-0283. All comments are welcomed. You can also download this and past episodes on iTunes and other social media outlets. Just search for us by name. Gunshots Straight from the Hip. Thank you for listening.
Gun Media. No hype, no hoopla, just damn good work.